And Amy, we're powering through another show this morning.
I mean, you have 105-degree fever, right?
Powering
And
through.
I would never know because you just power through like you do.
I mean, I don't do it like women do it because Jennifer
No.
Granholm, the former Michigan governor, made that clear. It's just something that women do. And something else that women surrogates do for the Hillary Clinton campaign and women surrogates who also double as members of the Washington, D.C. press corps do for the Hillary Clinton campaign is take their marching orders. So if the phrase that we are to rinse and repeat is power through, you're going to hear power through no matter where you turn for your political news. And that's exactly what's happened since Sunday. This montage that was put together and posted to the Washington Free Beacon, this is a combination of Clinton campaign surrogates over the last 2 days, as well as members of the D.C. press corps, cable news channel anchors, and the like. See if you can pick up on a theme.
She made a determination with her doctor that she would power through this. She made a decision to just power through this. We've decided to power through sometimes, just power through this. Continue to power through. Yes, she tried to power through it. She decided to power through it.
Well, you know, Brooke, she just wanted to power through. She just wanted to power through her schedule. So she wanted to just power through and keep doing it.
I
As you know, she
appreciate
is a
all of
senator.
her desire to power through.
To power through and get things done. She tried to power through it.
It was Hillary Clinton's decision, essentially, to power through.
The candidate who famously wants to power through these things. She's going to try and power through.
We say when you get a cold, just power through. Power through.
They thought she could power through. They thought she could power through it. They thought that she could power through it.
Wants to power through things. That too, the powering through.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're not even halfway done with the power throughing
right.
montage. Well, yeah, she did because she said that she didn't think pneumonia was a big deal and she thought she could, dare I say, power through this illness and keep on going on.
Stop saying that.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, you stop saying
exactly. No, this is the cover story, and this is the putting out the apparatchiks to say, as we discussed with that Henry, comrade has a slight cold, even though Brezhnev is dead on the floor in the other room. This is very Soviet, and it's a nice transition because we've been talking a lot about a former Soviet in this campaign cycle, that former Soviet being Vlad Putin. Former Soviet, aspiring future Soviet, I think. And to talk more about Putin and matters of a global nature, we're happy to be joined again by James Carafano. He's the director of the Douglas and Sarah Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies at the Heritage Foundation. He's also a West Point grad and a career Army officer who retired as lieutenant colonel. James, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, good to be with you.
So before we get to Putin, I want to start with the addition to Trump's National Security Advisory Team this week of former CIA director, Obama CIA director for a time, James Woolsey. What is the importance of Woolsey's involvement with Trump?
Well, you know, I do policy, not politics, right? So I don't get into the campaigns and what they do. I've known Jim Woolsey a long time. He's been involved in national security issues for many years since he's left office. He's remained active, even though Jim may be a registered Democrat. I don't even know, and he has worked for a Democratic president in the past. But Jim's widely known in conservative circles, and so that's, to me, not unusual that he's going to, line up with one side. He's a good guy. I mean, he's a great guy. I've known him a long time. He's very thoughtful.
But I mean, in terms of, when we talk about, forget even the Trump as the candidate, when we talk about any president surrounding themselves with talented people who inspire the confidence of the American people, particularly with respect to national security, you would put Jim Woolsey in that category of someone who should inspire our confidence.
I think Jim is a respected and a serious guy. I think that's fair.
Now, as a lieutenant colonel, someone who has served 25 years in the Army, there's breaking news this morning that Chelsea Manning is going to receive gender transition surgery, finally ending his hunger strike. What's your response?
I think that's essentially a legal issue about the Army's requirement and obligation to provide that kind of surgery. I think the Army has to do legally what they're required to do in terms of medical treatment and stuff. And when the Army, I've actually been to Fort Leavenworth. Fort Leavenworth's not just a prison; it's also an Army installation. But we have a Command and General Staff College, and I actually went there. Mm-hmm. One of the things you get to do there is you go over and you tour the facility. I toured the facility before and been there, and the Army actually runs some of the best, whatever you call them, incarceration in the world. Whether it's a local installation or Leavenworth is the equivalent of our San Quentin. That is an extremely or Gitmo. I mean, the Army takes its obligation to treat people right according to the law very, very seriously, and I assume that's what they're doing here.
Turning back to Putin, we talked to Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters yesterday about the Syrian ceasefire and the prospects that it will endure. And his suggestion was, with this ceasefire that has been brokered in part by Putin, apparently, that keeps Assad in place, as many predicted would be the ultimate resolution of this, regardless of the red line that President Obama drew, regardless of the rhetoric that Assad had to go. But by this ceasefire, we're essentially doing the bidding of Putin and Assad, and to what end is an open question. What's your assessment on this ceasefire and kind of where this goes?
I've known Ralph a long time. We actually disagree on a lot of things. I don't think Syria is one of them. I mean, I think he's exactly right. The truth of this conflict since day one is that you could look. Assad's a terrible person. He's a genocidal dictator. He's a horrible thing. I wish him nothing but ill. But the reality from day one was, as long as the Russians and the Iranians were going to support Assad, Assad was never going to be thrown from power. He was going to be able to retain Damascus, the port, the things that are important to the Russians and the Iranians. That was going to stay. And that's the reality of it. So us cooperating with them is just literally stupid. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do anyway, regardless of what we're going to do. So the impact of all this does really is create the imperator that the United States is sanctioning, keeping in power one of the world's worst dictators. Now, I'm not saying it's our obligation to liberate Syria or deal with Assad, because that's not going to happen, because we're not going to do that. Because if we went in there, we would essentially wind up in a war directly with the Iranians and the Russians. And the other thing is, look, Syria is not a vital interest in the United States. Syria has been antithetical to our interest in the region for decades. We've gotten along for that. It's not a strategically important country. And I feel for the Syrian people and the refugees. I think there are things, we can and should do to try to ameliorate the suffering. But we're not going to end this war, and we're not going to solve this, and we're not going to. And it's not even central really to dealing with the ISIS problem. The ISIS problem is that they're in Iraq, not that they're in Syria. So I think the whole idea. I don't think there's going to be a ceasefire. I think America and Russia active cooperating on this issue is never going to work, because at the end we have very, very different interests here. So I think it just makes us look stupid and feckless, and it makes the Russians look strong, and it doesn't actually do anything. It won't actually, I think, material help bring an end to the suffering of the people of Syria. So I put this down on the long list of stupid the long foreign policy initiatives.
And you mentioned about making Russia look strong, and it seems like that's what's been going on for much of the last 7 years. Mitt Romney was ridiculed when he said Russia was the great threat that America faces while running for president in 2012. Is it now materialized that he's right, or should the next president conceive of Russia in a context among a number of threats, including our new friend in peace there, Iran?
Well, I don't think they're the greatest threat ever, but I also don't think that Russia is ever going to be our friend. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't. I mean, that there are areas where we can't negotiate with Russia, where we can't work with Russia, where we can't reach some degree of agreement. We do that with the Chinese, and we're very competitive with the Chinese. The Arctic, for example, I really don't think that the Arctic nations and Russia need to have a Cold War over the Arctic. But there's two problems that Russia presents that we need to take seriously. And, any president can have any attitude they want towards the Russians on these things, but at the end of the day, they're trying to do different things than we are, and cooperation is going to be very, very difficult unless the Russians literally change their tune. Their entry into Middle East politics is not helpful. It's only going to make things worse in a region that's already deep in trouble. So that's not helpful. But even more important and critical, because I think their ability to influence events in the Middle East is still relatively limited. But their ability to destabilize Western Europe is significant, and I think that's a threat. And look, I'm not saying America should be the world's police because we absolutely shouldn't, but we should defend our interests around the world. And one of the things that could make the world very troubling for the United States is if there are large regional wars in critical parts of the world, not just because those parts of the world are important to us, but where a large regional war there could lead into something even more catastrophic and horrific, like a global conflict. And those regions are pretty clear. It's Europe, it's the Middle East, and it's Asia. So the United States needs to be working for peace and stability in all three of those regions. The Russians are serious about trying to push the United States out of Western Europe and to recreate a hard sphere of influence. And the Europeans aren't going to stand for that. And that's going to lead to something really horrific. And we just need to say and stand for, we're not for that. So I think Russian meddling in the Middle East isn't helpful. The destabilizing efforts in Europe are very, very, very dangerous. Russia doesn't want to start World War III, and neither do we. But if we just let them meddle, it's like letting the kid play with matches in the garage.
He is Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano. He is the director of the Douglas and Sarah Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies at the Heritage Foundation. James, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good being with you.
And James joined us on our Turnkey.pro answer line. And also join Heartland for their 32nd annual benefit dinner on Thursday, October 15th at the Cotillion in Palatine. This year's featured speaker will be political satirist and author P.J. O'Rourke.
And you can thank us for moving P.J. O'Rourke back into the Trump camp.
Oh, that's right.
I think we did a pretty good job moving him back away from Hillary Clinton.
P.J. O'Rourke will be delivering a very funny address about the 2016 election and the state of politics and culture in America today. Find out more. Go to heartland.org, and guess what, Dan?
What?
You can win tickets right now by being caller number
6.
312-642-5600. Grab a line, win tickets to the Heartland Institute's 32nd annual benefit dinner.